Good afternoon, everybody. We've just gone live at HQ, and we will wait another minute or so for guests to join the live link. So if we could just be patient over the next minute, and we'll kick off proceedings soon. Good afternoon and welcome to session 2 of Tennis New South Wales's virtual club forum for 2020. My name is Sean Mulroney and I'm the Regional Tennis Manager for Metro Sydney South. And this is Gavin Cowan, the Regional Tennis Manager for Metro North, and we'll be facilitating the conversation today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the many lands on which we meet today. And I'd like to also pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and welcome you all. We'll now cross over to our CEO, Mr. Lawrence Robertson, for a brief message.
Hi everybody, and welcome to our 2020 Club Forums. And obviously this year we're coming to you online. We're usually out and about and meeting you in person, and I know many of us are missing that opportunity to do so. But as we all know, it's been a very strange and challenging year due to COVID, and so therefore this year we've chosen to come to you via the World Wide Web. But of course, COVID has provided its challenges, but I do want to say thank you on behalf of everybody connected with Tennis New South Wales for the way in which you have adapted and worked hard to get us to this point, and now it seems like we're coming out the other side of it. So, the forums, well look, we've lined up some great panel guests. Many of them are club committee members, coach operators, members of councils, all designed to help pass on some of the experiences, tips and tricks that they've found from their clubs, not just in the recent past, but over many years of experience. So please take this opportunity, ask questions, write down everything you possibly can. All of this is designed to help you go back to your clubs and help us grow this great game of ours. So I'll now pass over to the team. Enjoy the forum, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet you here at the courts sometime very, very soon. Look after yourselves, take care, speak soon.
Thanks, Lawrence. Now, before we kick off with the content for today's session, there's just a couple of important bits of housekeeping to work through, which should only take a few minutes. So the first bit of information is just regarding the upcoming 2020 Tennis New South Wales AGM. Tuesday, the 24th of November is the date. And given the impact of COVID, which has obviously been widespread this year, there's been some changes to the AGM. And this is the first year that it will be conducted as a hybrid meeting. So hybrid AGMs share the same characteristics of both a traditional and a virtual meeting. So a limited number of people will be able to attend in person here at Homebush, which is around 80. Otherwise, for the first time, people now have the option to join in digitally. We've partnered with Link Market Services to deliver this AGM, and we've worked with them on building a microsite. And the access to that microsite is available through the new and improved Tennis New South Wales website. So I really encourage everyone today to jump onto the Tennis New South Wales website, have a look at all the information accessible through the microsite. And it's the first time people can join digitally. So really, please make sure that especially our regional guests who normally don't get the opportunity to tune in and attend in person. Please make use of that. An idea would be that if you're having your monthly committee meeting, try and have it on the same night as the AGM, so you can go through your usual business and then jump on and participate live. Now, voting, a bit of an update. It's a little bit different again this year. So voting will be conducted in person if you are attending at the physical venue. Otherwise, votes are cast online. So voting in person will be as per the previous years, the normal process, and online voting will open on the 9th. For the director elections this year, 1 court operator, 1 Sydney Metro and 2 country delegates. Now, a thorough and fair and transparent interview process was conducted for all the nominees. However, the board of Tennis New South Wales could not decide on a preferred candidate in all categories. Therefore, a number of candidates were equally suitable. So for fairness, this year the board has decided to abstain from voting if an unsigned proxy is given to the chair. So a few bits of information, but really important for members to note that if you appoint a proxy to someone other than the chair, they can either leave that open and instruct their proxy to vote as directed. Now, if you appoint the chair as your proxy, you need to direct your vote for director elections. Really important. If you appoint the chair as your proxy and you do not direct your vote, unfortunately, it will not count towards the director election element of the meeting. And if you have any questions regarding anything to do with that, please reach out to membership@tennisnewsouthwales.com.au with your questions, and the team will get back to you with a response in quick time. And finally, before we get into the content for today, just a brief update regarding child safeguarding. So Tennis New South Wales, our vision is that all children and young people are entitled to enjoy tennis in all its forms in a safe and welcoming environment. So for the club commitments, continue to monitor and educate our clubs on all child safety matters. All clubs should have a member protection information officer, also known as an MPIO, in place. If you need more information or to access some great resources, please head to Play by the Rules, and you can find some great resources to upskill you in this space there. Regarding the child safeguarding children framework, we are developing a framework to outline Tennis New South Wales and our zero tolerance approach, and a commitment to improving the child safe culture throughout the tennis family. And finally, the National Redress Scheme. Hopefully you're aware that Tennis New South Wales have confirmed our intention to join the National Redress Scheme. We encourage all clubs to understand and learn more about this scheme, and Tennis New South Wales will announce final arrangements shortly after the AGM. And again, any information that you need, please feel free to email membership@tennisnewsouthwales.com.au. And then back over to you, Sean.
Thanks for that, Gav. Look, now we're going to get into the less formal part of the forum, and obviously today's theme is from tennis club to tennis business. And what we're aiming to dive into today, and as we can see there on the presentation, is insights into tennis business management, player retention insights and experiences, customer service and stakeholder management. And we're really lucky to have 3, I'm going to call them experts from the industry, that are joining us today to give us some unique insights from their environment, which is fantastic. Before we get into that though, I just want to do some housekeeping so that we're all aware of what we're using today. We've got a new system. It's through YouTube. You can see us, but we cannot see you. We can't hear you either. However, we'd really love your participation in the forum today. So as you can see there below, you can SMS your questions on 0421 870 362. That message at the bottom of the screen will continue to roll throughout the session. And if we're unable to get to your questions today, we'll do our best post this session to follow up with you. All right, so as we kick on to the next thing, we just want to recap Monday's session where the head of tennis development, Chris Woodland, and the tennis channels manager, Troy Smith, dived into the insights from the recently developed venue sustainability rating and some of the data that's been collected across the state. So Gav, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I think a couple of the key points to set up today's session, talking about tennis club to tennis business, is around the professionalisation of tennis operations. So a really unique number that's popped up throughout COVID has been a big increase in online booking. 205% increase in New South Wales for online booking revenue between January and September this year compared to last year.
Yeah.
So I guess important now more than ever to be making yourself accessible to the community via online channels. And further to that, we've seen a nice positive trend towards venues that do adopt professional business practices are starting to showcase that they do drive the highest amount of participation. So a couple of key call-outs, which is why today we've brought in some industry experts in the tennis operations space to give us their unique case studies, their experiences, and hopefully some key learnings that we can take back to all tennis management models, whether that's a volunteer club, a counter-run facility, a club coach model, right through to other commercial or professional operators.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating, Gav. As we know, there's a number of systems out there, and there's the stakeholders on the ground that are doing a phenomenal job throughout this period. And we've all been impacted by COVID, and tennis, as we can see through those numbers throughout that period, has really had a positive showing, I would say, and in some cases we've had some really positive outcomes. However, in saying that, we're going to hear from the guests today from their experience, not just in COVID, but how they're going about managing their tennis centres, and we're really looking forward to introducing them in a short moment.
So our first guest, I think hopefully we'll bring through, will be Monique Lynch from Sylvania Waters Tennis Centre.
G'day, Monique. How
I
are
can't
you?
hear you guys. I've got no sound.
I'll do. All right. Well, we'll flag on to the next one.
Yep.
Oh, I've got you now.
Got us now.
Great. There we go.
Hi there.
How are you? G'day, Paul.
We've also brought in
Nice
Paul
to be
Frank.
here.
So Paul's the managing director for Love and Juice in Metro Sydney. You well, Paul?
You well? Yeah, I'm well. Sorry, mate. Maddie's here going to do the translating for me. I can't hear very well. So there'll be an extra delay as she translates for me.
Not a problem. We'll
But
try
I'm
and
good,
speak
mate.
up.
I'm very good.
More clearly.
Oh, good. That's a part of the new system, mate. We've obviously had this in person in the past, and now we're doing this virtually. So no dramas at all.
And final guest is Ryan Henry, the managing director from Voyager Tennis Academy.
How we doing? Thanks.
Right.
Appreciate the op. Hey guys, how we doing?
Good,
Hey.
thanks for joining.
Mate. Great to see you, Ryan.
Okay, Paul. Yeah,
Bye,
great to see
Ryan.
you guys as well, mate. Good to see you in action, mate. Great to have you on the badge team too, Shawnee.
Thanks. I'm not sure I helped the team at all. I think I went 14 matches straight losing, but that's all right. We got the final.
But you're not winning, mate. You're learning.
Exactly right. First learning for the day. Look, we're going to jump into it, team. We've got a number of questions that basically what we're trying to do today is create a conversation. And as I've just mentioned before, and just to remind everyone that if they do have questions out there in Clubland, please feel free to text in your questions and we'll aim to discuss them as we go. But throughout the last period, obviously COVID-19 has impacted us all. So Monique, I'm going to throw it to you firstly. What type of trends and participation and impact have you seen in your environment down there at Sylvania Waters? Monique, you're with us?
I think we might be seeing some tech issues with Monique, so we'll flip the first question across over to you, Paul. Same question. So participation trends throughout COVID-19. What have you noticed throughout the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, look, I think from memory, I think we closed initially on the 24th of March, and I think we were probably one of the first places to close, and simply we became not manageable within, and certainly not understanding all the regulations. I think there was, we made the decision we had to close, and then we were closed at one centre for quite a long time. But when we reopened to the public, and basically then it was just private lessons, 2 people on a court, coach and or 2 court hires. I think once the public got used to it, the numbers were fantastic. I mean, it certainly brought a lot of people back to the game, that all they could do if they wanted to exercise, they either played golf or tennis. And tennis, you can knock it over in an hour. So there was attractive exercise. So we found a lot of people coming back that hadn't played tennis for ages. A lot of that age group that we miss, and I'm talking probably 16 to 30, that were out playing tennis that in much bigger numbers than would have done before. And we had some, I mean, it wasn't a profitable experience in the short term. We had days of potentially 64 hours of court hire that we were doing 63 hours. And I noticed some of the other centres were the same. But from that, we collected a whole lot of new people onto a database that wanted to become involved in tennis again. And I think that was the bonus is actually collecting that information that allowed us, when we got back to some sort of normality, to really maximise the result.
Yeah, fantastic, and that's a really good insights from what you've experienced out at your facility. And Ryan, obviously Voyager Tennis Academies across a few facilities, but what have you experienced across the COVID period in terms of participation trends?
Yeah, thanks, Gav. I think from our perspective, like we're predominantly coaching, you could say competition and holiday camp business. You know, that's probably 90% of what we do. And the court hire aspect's a smaller component on a couple of our locations. So I think first of all, you know, April was definitely a very tough month because, you know, I think we were shut for 5 days. And then really the only thing we were able to do were private lessons. I think it ended up being for about 6 or 7 weeks. So whilst everybody was busy doing private lessons, and all our coaches were pretty much doing it 35, 40 hours a week, exhausted, by the way, because it's a lot more physically taxing over that time. But I think once things got back to normal, I think it was, things picked up pretty quickly. Like Paul said, you know, there was a really good opportunity on the court hire side for us, which again is a smaller component of what we do. We noticed a significant uptick in that. And because we're capturing, not only were we capturing the people that were booking the courts, but we were, due to COVID, we were also capturing every participant on the court, which was actually a major opportunity, because normally when you get a court hire and they play doubles, for example, you'll only get one email address and one phone number. I mean, we were getting 4 for every booking. So our database, you know, grew dramatically over that time for that reason. And as a result, you know, like I know Paul does a huge amount of them, I'm sure Monique does as well. The email marketing was a real success on the back of that, to all those new people to come down, you know, have a new, do a free trial and get them involved in the activity. So I think whilst it was a pretty tough sort of April and probably May, June got back to group coaching classes again and holiday camps by July. I think, you know, the biggest thing is that there was just, as Paul said, a lot of new people playing tennis. And I think those clubs that were able to take advantage of an increased database and through the way they market could have done pretty well off the back of it. So, yeah,
fantastic. And we're going to touch a little bit into that soon around, you know, the database and how you actually speak to your audience and your customers. But very intrigued to see, Monique, how it's gone down there at Sylvania Waters.
Yeah, I had the same experience as Paul and Ryan. So we had a huge influx of court hire, so casual court hire people in the adult space. So in the space of, I think it really, people were attracted to it because gyms were closed. So they saw tennis as another outlet. It was a safe outlet because you are socially distant from people. So they saw it as a safe outlet to be able to come. So it started off with court hire. And then we were able to, with the database, with the phone numbers and the email addresses and stuff like that, we were able to push them into group lessons. And when everything opened up again, so after that kind of May, June, July period, when we could get more people on the court, we opened up some more group lessons and some socials and things like that as well, to try and keep these new faces at the courts, which I think is huge, in taking advantage of an opportunity that was a bit of a downfall at one point, but was also good in this way. It also brought these adults that were coming, they brought their kids along, which jumped into group lessons towards the end of the year as well. So, we were just able to manage it that way. Like, as Ryan said as well, our coaches were flat out with private lessons, And yeah, it was a lot of toll on them as well doing that. But yeah, in the scheme of things, we ended up kind of doing okay from it. We had a quiet couple of months, but it ended up being okay on that side of things. So yeah, that was pretty much how we went with that.
Yeah, fantastic. And really interesting to hear you all touch on the database piece. And probably a good follow-on question would be, throughout COVID and prior to COVID as well, how important in your experience as operators of tennis facilities is it to have an effective database to communicate with your customers? Maybe back to you, Paul.
Absolutely essential. Honestly, if we didn't have a database, I'd hate to think of what the size of our business was. It's, you know, and as I said, with the COVID, it allowed us to really add some people that wouldn't have been there otherwise. But it's just absolutely essential. If we don't have it, you know, the programs, whenever we want to start something new, that's our database that gives us that opportunity. It's just that simple. I don't know how people could run a tennis business without collecting the data and using that data. I just don't know how they could do it. Well, how they could run a successful one.
Absolutely. And Ryan, yourself, was it a similar experience from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know Paul's super strong on in this regard as well. And I think, yeah, from our perspective, we try and break our database into different categories. You know, so if we have an adult sort of database, adult coaching database, a sort of junior development program database, we have a holiday camp database. So basically, we sort of have sort of 6 or 7 key categories of you know, court hire database, all that sort of stuff. And I think the real advantage of having the segregated or the different sections is that you can target when you've got a holiday camp coming up, you can target that specific list, or sometimes you actually target the entire database. And like Paul says, it's absolutely critical in being able to continue to grow programs and have success. The other thing we also do quite a lot now is the text marketing as well. We've had a lot of success with texting people directly, even though it is a little bit more expensive. You know, you do have to pay, you know, 6 to 8 cents per text. We have found that we have had a lot of success in promoting new programs or camps or upcoming tournaments and that sort of thing as well. So yeah, I'm the same as Paul. I don't know where we'd be without a well-managed database for sure.
Are there any restrictions, Ryan, with how you communicate? So if you are doing SMS, is there an opt-in, opt-out option? How does that work?
The main restrictions are just the number of characters you can use, depending on what system you have. Some of the, you know, like if you're operating off the Mac and the iPhone, you can only send out, say, 100. I think it's like 100 messages at a time. There's a couple of things around that, but it is the same as your sort of email. Your opt-in, your opt-out. If you can't keep emailing people or texting people if they don't want to receive those messages. So it's the same rule applies across both platforms.
Yeah, beautiful. And Monique, same question over to you. How important is it to have that effective database?
Yeah, so we do the same as the guys. So we find emails are effective because it gets it out there to everybody pretty much. So we like to send all our emails, regardless whether it's about comp or camps or lessons or anything like that. We just blast it out to everybody. Not overwhelming everyone. We don't send like an email a day. We kind of get it once every week or once every 2 weeks or newsletters or things like that. But I agree with Ryan. I find that the text messages are they're just efficient. They work really well. They are a little bit more expensive, but I feel like they feel like it's a little bit more personalized rather than an email going out to everybody. So you can personalize it a little bit more and they see it instantly too. A lot of people get hundreds of emails a day and they can just kind of scan through them and not bother reading them. But I feel like a text, they really get into and read it as well. And I know this is around databases as well, but I find our socials help too. We try and stay pretty active on that. So yeah, I think that helps really well as well.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think there's a question that's come through that I was actually going to ask. When you're talking about a database, are you talking about members? Are you talking about casual corporate hirers? Are you talking about comp players? What are you actually talking about there, team? Paul, I'd just like to ask you firstly, mate.
Sorry, yeah, Paul, you might have missed that one, but just around the database, where are you collecting the information from? Just say membership, or is it anyone that books a court or comes through your facility?
Where are you getting the emails for your database?
Just, I mean, anybody that walks through the door becomes literally part of our database. I mean, providing they're going on the court. So, I mean, that's, you know, I think our database, I mean, we've been going a hell of a long time, as you can see by looking at me. Yeah, the business is going, you know, I think it's 50 years. So, you know, but our database now is somewhere, I think, between $5,000 and $6,000. 6,000 people in dollars is an interesting concept. 5,000 or 6,000 people or households. So, you know, it's slowly grown, and we get people dropping off it. But you know, it grows all the time, and it's just, if the business is going to grow, you've got to grow your database, and you know, you've got to, through the database, it's word of mouth as well, and just make sure that you're getting that record happening all the time. It's just, you know, I mean, we look at a phone call, you know, if somebody wants a private lesson, that's $5,000 a year. It's just dealing with each person and realising the importance of that one contact and making sure that you don't lose it. And if they walk in the door and then walk out again without you having recorded that person, that's sad. That's just very sad. You're just really restricting your opportunities. I'd just also like to say at this stage, of like, you know, I'm an elder statesman of tennis, etc. But you know, I've probably made more mistakes than anybody that's listening in or is part of what we're doing today. You know, we've tried a lot of different things. We've tried a lot of different programs that haven't worked. But, you know, it's like playing a tennis match. You can learn a lot more from a loss than you do from a win. And that's the same thing, trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And as I said, we've made a lot of mistakes. But thank God from that we've learned, and we've got a lot of things that work well. And, you know, we've all just got to try stuff. Particularly at the moment, we've got to try stuff and talk to people. And through our database, that's it. We ask them, is this something you might like?
Great. Yeah, it's really insightful, Paul, and thanks for diving into that a little bit deeper. Just to touch on what I was mentioning before from the chat, that question come from Pauline from Ulladulla. So thanks a lot for that question, Pauline. And I'm also I need to preface the fact that, you know, we're talking about professional management today. These types of things can be adapted into all environments. You know, there is a certain amount of work that needs to be taken into how we manage our customers. So our team, you know, we're there, we're ready. We can chat to you about this sort of stuff. And then obviously with the people on the forum today, there's plenty of people within the industry that have expertise and are doing this day to day. So if you have any more questions, I would highly encourage getting in touch with our team, our tennis development team on the ground, and we can at least, you know, start the conversation. Regarding customer databases and whatnot, I'm really intrigued personally about how we manage the feedback. Obviously, you've got lots of customers coming through the door. You're communicating with lots of customers. But Ryan, just quickly, just going to you firstly, sorry, mate. How do you manage customer feedback?
Yeah, it's a really important one. I mean, we put the customer, you know, at the top of the priority list. They're essentially our employer, and so there's a couple of things that we do to make sure we're meeting the needs of the customer. The first thing that we do is we allocate every single person that comes into our business, whether it's you know, in the term coaching, whether it's in the hot shots or the adults or the high performance that we run. Every single person is allocated a coach. And so that way, no matter, even though we almost have 2,000 people a week sort of taking lessons, they never feel like they get lost in the business. And even for other busy sites, it's really easy for people to get lost there. So the first thing we do is sort of almost have like an account manager for every single person that comes in, which is our coaches. And every term we have a phone call with every one of they're mostly parents, because we coach a lot of kids. And the first question we always ask them in that feedback phone call is, how's your experience going so far this term? You know, is there anything that we can improve, or is there anything that you're really enjoying about it? And we get feedback sort of firsthand from every person once a term. And then we provide them with feedback on how their child's progressing, upcoming opportunities into camps and tournaments and all of those types of things. So we also, so that's probably the number one thing for us, is just getting on the phones and actually talking with the people. When I say getting on the phones, a lot of the time we can catch them at the venue, but if we can't, where every person gets contacted. We also have a complaints register as well, because we have quite a few locations. We've actually got a central our Google sort of database that we operate off. We have anytime we get a complaint from a tournament or a serious complaint, it goes in, and then our most senior people within the organisation usually deal with that, because often when you get complaints, they can be opportunities to try and improve the service and trying to make amends as well. So we try and we find that being really close to our clients through regular sort of verbal communications is the best way to stay on the pulse. And the other thing that never lies is your statistics as well. So we track all of our coaches' retention and our programs' retention, how many people are coming back each term. And if we start to see some negative trends there, if a particular coach is not able to retain their students, or a particular program is not working because the people aren't coming back at a 85 or 90% term on term, we know there's some things there to address. So that's the other, I think, really important thing in helping being able to retain your clients, and getting, the feedback is a lot often verbally, but it's often you just look at, if a program's growing, it's going well. If they're reducing in size, there's some things you need to address as well. People tend to talk with their feet, so to speak. So.
Fantastic. And Monique, knowing that you work really strongly in that social space, Facebook, Instagram, etc., I'd love to hear from your experience, how you manage your customers' feedback, that is.
Yeah, I find the feedback is super, super important from all our clients and our customers, whether it's the coaching side of it, the comp side of it, the camp side of it, the court hire side of it. And we try and get back to these people regardless of whether the feedback's positive or negative straight away, because they pretty much want an answer straight away. So I'm usually the one that deals with that, but very similar to Ryan. When our players come in, our coaching students, they have their coach. So they know that the coach that they've got for the term or the 2 terms or however long they've decided to come for. So any issues there, a lot of the parents will go straight to that coach, and then they will come to me and I will deal with that myself. But at the end of every term, we send out an email, like a feedback type email to everybody, and asking them how has the term been, what would they like to improve on, how have they enjoyed it, and moving forward, whether they'd like to continue with that same coach, whether they'd like to look at different options. And I find that brings up opportunities for kids to either move into the space of playing comps or into playing tournaments. And you also get that feedback of what they're looking for, whether their goal in tennis is to come and have fun and play with their friends, or whether their goal is to try and step into that competitive space. So I find that that's really helpful, and it also starts up a good conversation with the parents. You can get into it, you can find out exactly what they're after, you can find out what's been doing really well, what hasn't been working so well, what the community want as a whole, and then try and adapt the business to make it more accessible to everybody and to keep everybody happy as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Sounds like some really good tips there for the rest of our community to listen into, and really easy stuff to do consistently to keep people coming back to your facility. So thanks for the tips. Taking a bit of a different approach, and I know a few of you are working with some different clubs and associations. How important is it from your perspective to have a really strong relationship there with your local club and your association, especially around retaining players and keeping people coming back to your facilities? Probably go over to you, Ryan, maybe to start that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are unbelievably important. We work with 3 different associations across some of our venues, and the success of the programs very much depends on the success of the relationship with the association. So it depends on the sort of models. I think the most common one you're probably referring to, Gavin, there is like a coaching rights model, where you have a coaching provider who's providing the coaching for the venue. And then where you have your club or association that maybe runs the facility facility management and the court hire and maybe the comps. And so we deal with that really quite often. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other really important thing is just, when I think in terms of a lot of the research that you've done there around commercial models being the most successful there, a lot of that is because there is one entity, I guess, controlling the one database as well. That is probably our biggest challenge we have with associations is in terms of they've got one database over here, and then on the other side you've got the Voyager Tennis database, which is coaching. So I think the more you can work closely with associations, the better, the more successful outcomes you can have. So we have a good example for us is at Eastwood Thornlea, where we started about just under 3 years ago, and there were no participants taking coaching on the site at the time that we took over. And through our good working relationship now, we're up to almost 400 students a week taking lessons out of that location. So, but all of that is based around how well you can communicate, and we have regular meetings and things like that to make sure we're all on the same page. So, relationships are super critical.
Yeah, great. And Paul, your experience working with the club or association?
Yeah, look, I think it's, communicating with people, and I'm always talking to my staff about this, how we communicate these days has changed dramatically. And I know a lot of people consider a text message now, a verbal communication. I probably do close to between 80 and 100 phone calls a day. I think it's just so essential that we're talking to our customers all the time. I think that's just a huge part of it. I used to spend too much time in the back office, and now I sit in the middle of the clubhouse and I do my paperwork from there. I mean, and it's like, I make sure that when our breakfast comps or ladies comps are on, I'm out the front talking to the people as they come in. It's no different to any of us going into a restaurant. You walk into a restaurant and nobody recognises you, the waiter doesn't recognise you, or the manager doesn't recognise you. You just come in, you sit down, you have a meal and you go again. But if you walk in and then somebody says, good day, Ryan, good day, Monique, come this way, nice to see you again, all of a sudden you feel part of that place and you have a loyalty to the place. And I think a lot of our verbal communication, I think, we do a lot of emails, we do a lot of text messages, but, we do a lot of talking. And building relationships with people face to face, and I can't. And we talk to people that have stopped coming. I'll have a list of people that may have been in my breakfast comps, or they have been and they've dropped out, and then I just ring them up and talk to them, even without asking them to play again, and they're happy to hear from you. And I think that I know I'm working in the way it was a while ago, but we still do we do a hell of a lot of emails, etc., out communicating to people. But when they walk in the door, we really want to make sure that somebody's there to say, hi, Jim, hi, Mary, whatever. And I think that's a huge part of what keeps people coming back. Plus, just if you don't love your facility and you don't keep it clean, then the customers aren't going to love it either.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Paul. Sean, another question, mate, from you?
Are we jumping in with Monique firstly?
No, I think we'll just go straight to the individual.
Fantastic, no worries. We're going to continue on, and we're going to just jump into some individual questions just to dive a little deeper into each venue's environment. So, Ryan, I'm going to go to you first, mate. Voyager Academy obviously operates out of a number of facilities, as we mentioned before, across Sydney. How do you ensure that your level of service and, say, retention of players stay strong in such a competitive environment? We know there's around about 400 tennis venues in Sydney. So I imagine, within that market, you're potentially doing some things that are really interesting for the people listening in to take on.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yeah, when we think about sort of competition, we mainly think about the other activities out there. It's the sort of team sports, and a lot of the other after-school activities are sort of the main competition. It's very rare, I think, from anyone to go from one tennis centre to another if they're unhappy. Most of the time, if they're not happy with the service, they drop out and they play soccer or something else. So So that's the first thing around competition. I think for us, we've invested a huge amount of time and our resources into our sort of coach training and or tennis professional training, as we sort of refer to our team as. And I think that for us, we spend a lot of time on training coaches on how to deliver junior development program lessons on the junior side. Adults, we have also a high performance component of our business, how to restring rackets, how to run competitions, how to deliver holiday camps. And so it's not only just coach delivery, but it's also some of the off-court side as well, around how to manage your team for some of our senior guys and using our software, all that. So we try and provide a really good induction for new employees. So we've got around a 10 to 12 hour sort of program where someone comes into our academy and they learn all the basics around all of what I just listed, plus customer service and things like that. So I think training your team is super critical in terms of being able to deliver a high standard of service to the client. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing after the service has been delivered are those touch points, like I mentioned before, around the importance of picking up the phone. And we train all of our coaches, although some of them aren't initially comfortable with it. We have all of our coaches talk with it and call the clients directly. But we do provide the training around how to deliver that. How do you get feedback off the customer? How do you give them feedback? How do you encourage them to take up new services at the club, like camps and competitions that are upcoming? So that touch point, I think our clients really appreciate it. They really appreciate being delivered a really good lesson and a good experience around the booking process and all that. And then secondly, it's that touch point, I think, builds really good, lasting relationships and makes them want to be a long-term client. So they're the main two things from my perspective.
Fascinating, mate. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. And I just want to cross to Monique. And we're going to just change it a little bit here. We're going to look at innovation. So Monique, I work in your region and understand that you do quite some innovative type of stuff on the ground. Can you share some of your ideas on how you've brought that to life within your own environment and some of the innovations that you and the team have created?
Yeah, so we try to get some new type of things in at our tennis center. And one of the big ones that we started just before COVID, and we had a little break in between, and then we picked it up again a couple of months ago, was mums and bubs classes. I find this space is a little bit missed in tennis. I think every other sport kind of has this going. And yeah, it just works really well. It's run by females. So myself and one of our other coaches, Bianca, we run this one. We have the parents on one court, and then we have the kids on the other court. So coaching the mums, and Bianca has the kids. So the kids pretty much run a hot shots lesson. So it's not so much babies in prams babies. It's more kind of like between your 2-year-olds to your just preschool aged olds. And they do hot shot kind of lessons. They do obstacle courses. It's hand-eye coordination, that type of thing. While the mums on my court do pretty much just an adult social kind of tennis lesson. So drilling, a bit of fitness, a bit of kind of point play situations, playing some fun games, things like that. So that's one that's really taken off. We run 2 classes of that on a Friday morning, and then we're about to start another 4 classes during the week when there are courts available. So I find it's worked really well to get the mums into it that have kids coming for lessons of an afternoon, and they have younger kids that come with them. Not only restricted to mums who have younger kids, they can also just come themselves. They don't have to bring a child. So that's one that's really taken off. It's kind of a bit of a point of difference, and it's worked really well. We also like to find a way to kind of give back to our clients. So the clients that support us, we give back to them. So we're about to kick off a page on our website where it's our clients that come to us, their businesses or places of their work that they're really passionate about, they do well. We're going to have a page on our website that lists them. So say if you're looking for a builder, you can look at our website. This is a guy that comes to us. He's one of our clients. So go and support one of our clients as well. So that's another one that that we're about to kick off. Actually, it's going to kick off in the next 2 weeks. So we're looking forward to that. Kind of just getting that real community spirit in there and yeah, just having that going. There's also one other thing that we do. We do a term sponsorship. So we choose 2 kids across the board. We just pick, they don't have to be our high performance kids. They can be our grassroots kids. They can be beginners. They can do groups or privates. And we do a sponsorship thing. So they get kind of an SWTC pack. So they get shirts, they get a bag, and they get $100 off their term fees, and they get $100 worth of court hire. So all about getting bums on seats. We want the kids to come down and play as much as they can. They bring their siblings out, they bring their parents out, and they have a hit. So that's another one that we find has worked really well. And we actually have the kids saying to us, oh, who's going to get the next scholarship? Who's going to get the next sponsorship? Things like that as well. So it's kind of a way of keeping them in line a little bit too, because they're all striving to be able to get that opportunity as well. So they're kind of 3 of the big key points at the moment that we're really pushing, and seems to be working well.
And just really briefly, Monique, what have you done with your pro shop and clubhouse? Just really briefly.
Sorry, Monique can't hear us directly, so we're sending messages via text. So scratch that one.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I know what she's done. She's used the shipping container to convert her clubhouse. So worthwhile having a look online.
But then flicking over, so over to you, Paul. I know, and again, I work with you pretty closely in your region, and I know you've got some really successful programs that you do run, and probably particularly your breakfast comps, Paul. So I wouldn't mind you talking us through maybe your approach to programming, and also how those programs have become so successful.
Look, I mean, the breakfast comp was just an evolution, really. I think, basically we look at a day and break it up into sections and go, all right, at 7 o'clock in the morning, if I want to have people on my courts, what can I run? Or at 9:30 in the morning, if I want to have people on my courts, what can I run? What's going to appeal to the major part of the market? So the breakfast comp was, not quite a few years ago, we didn't open till 9 o'clock in the morning. But we had a lot of people that had started having lessons early, and then the progression was to provide a comp. And a lot of the people playing in our comp, probably a third of them, wouldn't get into other clubs. They're just, and a lot of them have been rejected by clubs that want to be elitists, etc. And it's almost like, I think, what's that ad on TV where we take the sardines that John West rejected or something. We take the people that the club didn't want. And we've got, so many of those that, and it's built from that. So, and then the higher level built from that. So it's just a matter of servicing the people. Again, at the moment, there'd be over 200 people playing in the breakfast comp. 20 to 30 of those would have come from playing tennis in COVID, and some of them absolutely rejected by clubs on the weekend, told they're not good enough. I think everybody's got to look at that market of people out there and say, well, what can I offer them? If they want to play tennis, they've got to be able to go to a club or and find something to play in. And if they, if it's just going to be court hire all the time, they'll lose interest. People want to play in something competitive. They want to play where they can have some social interaction attached to it. They don't want to just be turning up, having a hit with their same buddy every week. They'll get bored with that. So, the breakfast comp was an evolution of really what people wanted. They wanted to come and play something before work. And it's, it feeds the rest of our business with tennis lessons, etc. We now run brekkie clinics like during the school holidays. We used to think that, that the school holidays were purely for kids. And then I realised a lot of our clientele, their kids were grown up. So we sent an email out to our database to see if they wanted to come and do group lessons at 7 o'clock in the morning during the school holidays, because we don't run our brekkie comps during the school holidays. And now, we get 32 people every morning now having lessons at that time in the morning. But that was just having your eyes open and looking and going, hold on, we've got people coming down hiring courts that play in our comps normally, but they can't play in the comps because we've got camps on. So we started running brekkie clinics. So and we do those now 4 mornings a week during the school holidays. So I think it's just being awake and looking and talking to your clients and seeing what's happening on the courts and seeing is there something that I can add to what we're doing? And, you know, the tennis camps at Coffs Harbour, we've got our next one on, and I think Ryan's coming up for a day or two to have a look at it and maybe work for a change. And, you know, but that camp, the next one's Camp 107. So, you know, I've spent 107 weeks or more actually in Coffs Harbour running these adult camps. I sent an email out on Friday for our one. We're putting one on in February, and it's booked out today already. So 16 people. And I'm not bragging and saying, oh, we're doing this. I'm just saying these markets are out there, and we need to look for them and experience them and massage it and get the product right. You know, that's 16 people, and they'll pay $3,000 each to come for the week. But it's not just a tennis week. That's not why they come back. They come back because tennis is a great social sport, and we've all got to make it that. We've got to give them an opportunity to turn up and play tennis at our club and our association, not be elitist, and provide that environment where they want to come back. So that's you know, that's why it works. I mean, the camps in Coffs Harbour, you know, we every night, and it's mainly women that come, but you know, we've evolved the wine aspect of it, and we put French champagne on every night, and that's just an easy selling point. That at the end of the day, they've had 4 hours of solid tennis, and then they sit back, great food, champagne, and socialise. And the retention rate is unbelievable. But it's not just playing tennis. It's not just hitting tennis balls. It's the environment that we create around it that's so important, and that's what makes the programs work. Whatever ones, if we're specialising in certain areas, that's what makes it work. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, mate. And yeah, make sure you keep a spot free for me for one of those upcoming camps. It sounds outstanding. So maybe you, Sean, just for one of the final questions for the group.
Yeah, look, Ryan, I'm going to go to you straight, mate. And we've only got a couple of minutes left, so let's try and keep these as brief as possible if we can, please. Mate, just in summary, what does it take to be a successful business operator within tennis?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, just on the back of what Paul was saying, not sure about the working comment, but just in terms of what it takes to become successful. Like, I think, you know, Voyager's probably had some good success because we've been super open to learning what other people do really well, and we're always trying to learn in some way. And you know, Paul runs an exceptional camp up at Coffs. He runs some exceptional stuff, you know, out at Tallis Street and Willis during the day. And I've spent, you know, a bit of time with Paul trying to learn off some of the things that he's done, as well as other operators as well. So I think the more people have that attitude of trying to learn off other people, the more they can add elements to their own operation or their own venue. I think running a tennis center is an unbelievably hard job, just because there are so many different elements of, you know, you've got the delivery, the actual coaching side, you've got customer service, you have marketing, you have to have someone who understands finance, so they know whether to budget for upgrading courts and things like that. You've got the HR side, you know, employing people, employment contracts, WHS. There's a lot of hats that I think a tennis operator needs to wear. So, you know, I think that's one of the key things is you sort of do need to be the jack of all trades if you're a tennis center operator. Or other than that, there are other companies like Paul's Paul's run up to 5 venues in the past as well, where you have enough scale to be able to hire a specific HR person to take care of that, a marketing person, someone that takes care of the financial side. So, you know, there are a few multi-site tennis operations that do have the advantages of being able to have shared resources in some of those areas that tennis professionals typically aren't good at. But if you're running your own site, you do generally need to sort of wear a lot of different hats every day and be willing to adapt. We tend to see some of the sites that I've seen in the past, they have great coaches on them. They might have a great head coach who's a great actual tennis coach. But if you don't have the marketing, if you're not capturing the database, if you're not taking care on the financial side or employing people the right way, you can find that the venue can struggle. So my biggest thing is just having a tennis center that has all of the sort of 7 or 8 sort of key parts for running a business operating well, and the venue will perform after that.
Fantastic, mate. Thanks a lot for that insight. And Monique, just over to you real briefly. We've got about 2 minutes left, so over to you.
Yeah, it's not easy at all, actually. So as you guys would know, it's long days. So I think we're putting in like 14, 16-hour days. A lot of stuff is done behind closed doors. People don't realize. But yeah, I think it's also being open and listening to what people want as well. I do that. I called Ryan last year, or I called him actually earlier this year to find out what he was doing around COVID. So yeah, like I think it's opening up, listening to other people from their experiences. I also called Ryan in the past about sponsoring coaches from overseas, getting international coaches in. So I think it is really about listening to what other people do and adapt it to how it works for you. I also find with us, our staff retention is something that really, really helps drive our business and improve it. Our staff have been around for a long time. We've had one that's been here with us for the whole 8 years. We've had a few that have stayed on for the last 4 years. I think our newest staff member is 2 years. She's been here for 2 years. So I find that the staff retention is one that really, really keeps people comfortable and keep people wanting to come back, and then keeping that good relationship with your customers. Because like Ryan said, it's hard. You do wear lots of hats. You have to have great coaches, and then you have to be good communicators with your clients, which can be tough at times, especially when you're dealing with children. I find it hard because you deal with the children, but you're also dealing with the parent. So that's a tough thing, and everyone wants the best for their kids, which is obvious. But yeah, I feel like that's probably the toughest thing, is the long hours and dealing with the parents and the kids at the same time. But yeah, I feel like our staff, our team do a great work, which is why a lot of people keep coming back to see them. Yeah, and just being open and listening to what people want, and being willing to take risks as well. So putting new things in place, doing things a little bit differently to what other people do, and then taking what other people do well, and trying to adapt it to suit your own business.
Awesome. Look, thanks so much to Paul, to Ryan, and to Monique for spending some time today and sharing some of the tips and tricks and insights that you guys are doing really well on the ground. And it's been fantastic, and hopefully the tennis community got a fair bit out of that. And we do encourage, as everyone said today, please network as much as possible between yourselves as well, because there's a lot of good stuff that's happening out there. And the more we can learn from each other, I think the better for tennis. So thanks to you all, and hopefully we'll catch up and chat soon.
Thanks, guys.
See you in Coffs Harbour, Paul.
Yeah.
And then look, just to finish up, thanks everyone for spending some time today going through this. Hopefully it was valuable and you got some good insights. Please head over to the Tennis New South Wales website. It has gone through a bit of a facelift recently after some feedback, so hopefully you find it a bit more accessible. All the videos, so today's session and all the sessions we'll do over the next couple of weeks will be uploaded live. So if you want to watch it again or share it around the community, please do. You can also find a range of club resources to contact your local team, so your local regional tennis manager and your tennis development officer. The information is all stored there. And also please make sure that you sign up to our newsletter and stay in touch with us via social media, so Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you, and any feedback you have on the session today, good, bad or indifferent, please send it through, because we want to make sure these are valuable for the community moving forward. So thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll see you on the court soon.
Thank you.